Whenever we pull out our phones or pop open our laptops, we absolutely love to talk about the cloud, right? We picture this magical wireless canopy of data just floating invisibly in the atmosphere above us, beaming information straight to our devices. Well, I'm here to completely destroy that illusion today. Because the truth about our so-called wireless world is far more physical, way more grounded, and, honestly, infinitely more dangerous. In this explainer, we're going to look at the shocking physical reality of the internet. It's this realm of extreme engineering that sits completely out of sight, yet it literally holds up the modern world.
Right now, at this very second, your entire digital civilization, we're talking every single financial transaction, every video call, every piece of streaming entertainment, is tethered by a massive physical network. 1.2 million kilometers of cables crisscrossing the globe. That's enough to wrap around the Earth almost 30 times. It is a vast, physical web connecting continents, and without it, everything just grinds to an absolute halt.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because the environment where these cables actually live is essentially an alien world. These lines aren't just tucked away in some safe, quiet trench. No, they are sitting up to 3,800 meters deep on the ocean floor. They have to survive shark bites, unpredictable tectonic shifts, and the literal crushing weight of the deep sea. We are talking about 366 Earth atmospheres of pressure, actively trying to destroy the very lifeline of our global communication. It's wild.
Section 1. The invisible digital backbone.
To really grasp how we achieve this, we got to shift our perspective a bit. We need to zoom all the way out from the macro scale of those vast ocean trenches and dive deep down into the microphysics of how we actually transmit this data. If you remember those old copper modems, we used to take sound waves, modulate them into electrical signals, and literally push them down a wire. That capped us out in an agonizing 56 kilobits per second, mostly because of electromagnetic interference. But modern fiber optics? Guys, this is absolute magic. We are taking billions of bits, coding them into pulses of light, and shooting them right through glass. And since light couldn't care less about electromagnetic interference, we can move over 2,000 terabytes of data every single month through strands of glass that are literally the size of a human hair.
Section 2. Engineering for the abyss.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. We are taking the most vital information network in human history, building it out of incredibly brittle glass, and then tossing it into the most crushing, hostile environment on planet Earth. We call this the fragility problem. Think about the last time you dropped a ceramic dinner plate on a tile floor. You know exactly what happens. Ceramics and glass are unbelievably brittle. They shatter with practically zero force. So how on earth do you protect a hair-thin strand of glass from the weight of an entire ocean trying to obliterate it?
Well, you build an engineering marvel. It's basically an exercise in managing complete contradictions. The cable has to be heavy enough to sink straight to the bottom, right? But it also has to be flexible enough that it can be wrapped around a giant spool on a ship. What we're dealing with is a sort of onion layer of protection. Deep inside the core, those glass fibers are swaddled in petroleum jelly just to keep the water out. That's wrapped inside a rigid copper or aluminum tube, and then the outer layers get fully armored with steel wires, mylar tape, and this incredibly thick polyethylene. We literally armor plate the light.
Section 3. Powering the ocean floor.
But protecting the glass? That's really only half the battle. We also have to deal with the stubborn physics of light itself. Because even in the clearest glass imaginable, light signals inevitably degrade and fade as they travel over thousands of miles of ocean floor. To fix this, engineers use something called a repeater. Every 50 to 100 kilometers along that entire 1.2 million kilometer network, these deep-sea devices essentially catch the fading light signal and amplify it back up to full strength. But here is the catch. Repeaters need massive amounts of power. And you obviously can't just drop a battery down to the ocean floor and expect it to run a repeater for 25 years straight. So the cable itself actually has to act as a massive transoceanic power line. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the power we're dealing with. A standard plug in your home outputs about 120 volts, but onshore facilities, they are pumping a staggering 10,000 volts of direct current right through that inner copper layer of the subsea cable just to keep those repeaters alive. It's a jaw-dropping amount of power. Actually, it's so intense that defense contractors are currently looking at ways to tap into these cables to wirelessly charge autonomous underwater drones, like the massive Manta Ray, so they can just patrol the depths indefinitely. Crazy, right?
Section 4. The logistical nightmare.
Let's move over to how this builds into an entirely different kind of challenge, the actual logistics. You've got the perfect cable, you have the power to run it.
Now you actually have to get hundreds of millions of dollars worth of it down to the seabed without destroying it. And the hazards of laying these cables are just mind-boggling. You've got specialized ships carrying up to 5,000 tons of cable on these gigantic spools. It is a nearly impossible logistical balancing act. Think about it. If the captain sails the ship too fast, the tension snaps the fragile cable right in half. If the ship moves too slow, the cable bunches up on the seabed, and those bunches create what are known as corner reflectors, which can actually make this highly secret network visible to space-based synthetic aperture radar. So to make sure everything is absolutely perfect, crews use remotely operated vehicles down there to attach sensors and guide the fiber optics into place with literal surgical precision.
And the stakes for getting this right go way, way beyond Netflix streaming speeds. These cables are increasingly becoming dual-use technology. They serve as both data networks and massive surveillance grids. For instance, in regions like the South China Sea, we are seeing the construction of projects like the $300 million Great Underwater Wall. By linking these high-speed fiber optics directly to acoustic sonar arrays on the seabed, these networks can now detect and triangulate the exact position of submarines within a 160-kilometer range. It is essentially a silent technological arms race happening right now in the pitch dark.
Section 5. The cliff edge failure.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how unforgiving this environment actually is. Down in the dark, the ocean does not care about our data or our geopolitical boundaries. You know, in the tech world, the famous motto is move fast and break things. You release a software update, it has a bug, you patch it the next day. But the deep ocean does not allow for software patches. As we were all tragically reminded by the OceanGate disaster, when you try to move fast and break things in a high-pressure environment, the laws of physics push back immediately and catastrophically. Any miscalculation in the deep sea doesn't just result in a glitch. Failure is a cliff edge. It results in instantaneous destruction.
So what actually happens when one of these cables breaks? The repair process is basically the stuff of logistical nightmares. A repair ship has to sail out into the open ocean to exact coordinates, sometimes literally navigating by star trackers or even deep space lunar GPS notes. Then they drop a grapple miles down into the pitch black just to hook an impossibly thin, broken cable out of the mud. They haul it all the way back up to the surface, and then engineers have to meticulously splice those microscopic glass fibers back together in a sterile, cleanroom environment right on the deck of a swaying ship. It is an absolute triumph of human skill.
Which brings us to the core realization of this entire explainer. We talk so much about our wireless, cloud-based future, but that entire future relies completely on tiny threads of glass sitting quietly in the darkest, most dangerous depths of the ocean. We are physically bound to the Earth in ways we barely even register. It really makes you wonder, if our entire wireless civilization relies on glass cables miles underwater, just how fragile are we?
Now, if you're the kind of person who gets a massive dopamine rush from understanding this kind of hard-tech logic and the sheer engineering willpower behind systems like this, then you definitely need to check out Brilliant. I actually use Brilliant to stay sharp on the exact concepts we unpacked today. They don't just hand you a textbook and expect you to read it. Through interactive, hands-on lessons, you can actually see and manipulate the physics of light inside fiber optics. You can dive deep into applied physics, explore the Z-Man effect used in those magnetic sensors, or even take their course on large language models to truly understand how all this subsea data is powering the AI of our future.
It is the absolute best way to build your problem-solving skills and really level up your own engineering toolkit. So head over to brilliant.org/systemlogic. The first 500 of you to sign up using that link will get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me today. And before you go, I want you to really think about it. If our sprawling, wireless future relies entirely on brittle glass sitting in the darkest depths of the ocean, just how fragile is our civilization? Keep asking questions, and I'll see you in the next one.